Welcome to your rocks lab. We're going to start with igneous rocks, and you have some prompting questions that'll help you identify them. ACE is number 1, and then the other numbers are corresponding to the answers you'll be putting into e-learning. So, what you want to do is start with your questions. So the first question is, are all the crystals visible? So if you look at this sample, you can see that there are a lot of visible crystals, right? So if the answer is yes, then the texture is phaneritic. So then you'll go to your table and you'll look at the table and see under phaneritic you've got crystals that are visible. So that's step 1. So you've got your texture for that. Then you need to look at the mineral composition and say, is it light colored, intermediate, or dark? So, looking at that sample, what would you think? So you'll use the row across and the column down, and in the white boxes, that's where the rock name is. So for your answer, you will need to have the rock name, the texture type, and the mineral composition. And that'll be your answer to put in the e-learning questions. Okay, so this again is sample number 1. Looking at the crystals, looking at the color, and using those to go into the box, into the table, and use the rows in the column to identify that rock. Okay, so this is sample number 2. And sample number 2, again, if you look at it, do you think the crystals are visible in this one? And if the crystals are visible, then that texture is phaneritic. And then the color is based on either light colored, intermediate colored, or dark. And there's a lot of this the salmon color in there, so that would seem to be kind of light, right? There's a lot of whiter crystals as well. So again, using your texture, the color, and the mineral composition, find the white box with the name of the rock in it, and then use that, the texture, and the mineral composition for your answer. Alright, and here's the next one. Now you have some crystals that are visible, but not all of them, right? There's like a matrix in here, very thin. Can't really see a whole lot of crystals there. So a few are visible, but mostly not. So that would mean that it's probably either aphanitic or porphyritic. And I guess I kind of lean, since it's kind of a mixed bag, I would lean more toward porphyritic with this. But generally porphyritic has really, really large crystals and very, very small crystals. So I think probably either of those would do for this particular sample. And you need to determine if this is light or dark, or intermediate. Well, it's definitely not as dark as some of these other ones, right? So I would kind of lean toward being a kind of a light color, right? So using that and your texture and the mineral composition, identify this rock using one of the white boxes, and then make sure you document your answer and put it into the e-learning with the rock name, the texture, and the mineral composition. Alright, here is sample number 4. Taking the video outside today because it's too nice to be inside. So here's sample number 4. And again, you ask yourself, are there crystals visible? And if no, then you say, are some of the crystals visible? And again, I don't see anything. There's some nicks on it, but it's just a shiny, almost glassy looking. So none of the crystals are visible. And you go down to question 3, and it says, yes, texture is aphanitic because they're too small to see, but we don't even see anything at all, right? There's not even a granule texture of any kind. So is it full of holes? Well, no. And then the last question is the rock made mostly or entirely of glass? What do you think? So that's sample number 4. Sample number 5. Let's see what we got from our Scooby-Doo card there. Alright, sample number 5. Again, we go back and we ask ourselves, are all the crystals visible? What do you think about that? I would say yes, right? All of the crystals are visible. I can see a lot of them, I'm sure, even though you're seeing through a camera. Quite a few of them are visible. So yes, that means the texture is phaneritic. So using that, you go down to your table and look in your table for something that is phaneritic. I would say that this is probably an intermediate color, right? Somewhere between, if you mixed it all up, it would be somewhere between black and white. It's not dark, but it's not totally light either. And you'll use that information to go ahead and find the name of that rock. Find the name of that rock and fill that out for your e-learning, and make sure you put in the rock name, the texture, and the mineral composition for that answer. All right. Here's another sample. So we start with our questions again. Are all the crystals visible? I don't know about you, but I really don't see very many. So no. So we go down to number 2. Are some of the crystals visible? And is the rock a mixture of large crystals and crystals that are too small to see? Well, I don't see any really, really large ones. There's one there that might be considered fairly large, but not really, really large. So I would say no. And that takes us to 3. Are none of the crystals visible? Well, there really aren't very many that are visible, so I would say yes. That gives me my texture is aphanitic. So we go down to our texture, our table again, find your texture as aphanitic. And then, judging on the color, I would think that this is more of a lighter color, right? It's not, it's even lighter than this one, right? And then using that information, make sure again you get your rock name, your texture, and the mineral composition from the table for your answer. Alright, so in our Scooby-Doo card we're all running. Alright, so this one, I look at it, it's very light, very, very light. And I don't know if you can see in the video, it's full of holes. They're both very full of holes. and they're very, very light. If I were to drop it in water, it would probably float. So, we start again. Are crystals visible? I don't really see any crystals. So we go to 2. Are some of the crystals visible? I don't really see any. So that's no. So go to 3. Are none of them visible? I would say yes, but because we don't see any, and our 4th question is the rock full of holes. That more suits our this particular sample, right? It says it's porous or frothy. Sure looks porous and frothy to me. So use that information to find that particular rock on the table below. And the composition of that rock should be directly above it. And lastly, for your last igneous sample, number 8, it's Scooby and Shaggy shaking hair in their boots. So this is your sample number 8. Looking for any crystals. It's got kind of a lumpy surface, but I really don't see any crystals sticking out. It's just a very fine surface. So our answer to number 1 would be no. Our answer to number 2, see if you can figure that one out. What about number 3? And then using the information you gathered from those questions, determine your texture, and use your table to figure out whether the mineral is dark, intermediate, or light. And using the row across and the column down method, that should give you the name of this last igneous rock. Again, you'll put the name, the texture, and the mineral composition in for your answer in e-learning. Alright, and that will conclude your igneous rock lab. And next we will do sedimentary and then metamorphic.